I've constructed a list of solutions directly to help you for the 2025 bull run, but most importantly, allow you to become financially free, okay? Now, I know that a lot of you guys are suffering with one big thing, and that's essentially shortness of time. I interviewed about 15 people over the last 2 weeks, subscribers, and one of the most common things I heard was, hey, I want to know this, this, and this, which is all the things I'll show you in today's video. But the common theme was that you guys are short on the time, right? You have jobs, family, social life, and you can't really spend as much time as someone like myself researching as much as you might want to. And I totally get that. And hence, I'm going to rank these 3 things in order from important to do or die, but most importantly, they are going to be things that anyone can adopt right now to optimize their bull run and, of course, most importantly, become financially free. Because as most of you should know, I hold the outlook that 2030 might be the last bull run, but I also share a very strong opinion that 2025 very well could be, and I am not here to test that, okay? I think I'm preparing for 2025 to be the be-all and end-all last, big hoorah crypto bull run. I think 2030 will be somewhat of a bull run, but only for the projects that survive the next bear market, which I think there is going to be a huge transformation. So you need to absolutely prepare for the situation as well. You can't afford to make the mistakes I made in the 2021 bull run and so many others as well, because, well, simply, you might not be able to have an opportunity like this ever again, okay? So if any of what I just said resonates with you, I really do suggest you look on the screen now and follow this plan. So I'm going to touch on 3 things, okay? And again, follow a plan like this. We have the next 6 to 7 months, as I mentioned. Now, this was a whole video in of itself. I'll leave the link down below where I tell you guys that 7 months from now is when the halving's happening. So 6 months is probably the most amount of time we should be expecting for us to have somewhat decent buy zones for all of our altcoins, or most of our altcoins, okay? And so if you pretty much follow a goal setting strategy and then break these into different sort of sprints, if you will, divide it into weeks, divide it into days, and plan out your education over the next, even month to 6 months, you're going to be better off than most people already, okay? But I do want to touch on some of these really important topics, okay? So let me now begin with the first point, and that is your portfolio and yourself. So when I mean, understanding your portfolio and yourself, I mean, okay, for where you are right now, what are your goals for the next bull run, okay? So typically this does vary depending on who you are as a person. How much can you afford to risk in the bull run, if any money at all? And in that case, typically I find most people are willing to be more risky with the less money they have, and the more money they have, the less risky they want to be. They want to secure 10x returns, which I think is a universal minimum for crypto, as crazy as that sounds. 1,000% gains is kind of crazy, but that tends to be the minimum. And in this case, you want to restructure your portfolio to benefit you. I spoke with a lot of people on those 15, 20 calls I did over the last 2 weeks, and these people were telling me like, hey man, I want no risk, but I'm buying these altcoins and all I need is a 10x. And I'm like, man, why are you buying these sort of medium, higher risk projects, if not the lower risk, but still quite high chance of, collapsing altcoins? And why not just go with the safer bets, Cardano, Solana, even Ethereum, okay, and just secure those gains? And so it's very important to look at yourself first. How much am I willing to, risk in this essentially bull run? And 2, how much returns do I want? Now, the next thing you want to do is observe your existing portfolio if you have one. Very simply, just have a look at your portfolio. Does any of what I just said about, your returns and also the risk resonate with your current portfolio? Now, if it doesn't, you want to obviously change those altcoins, but most importantly, what we're doing here is trimming off the ones that you are A, don't fit that sort of criteria, and B, they aren't projects you've researched recently or before. You don't know much about them, okay? It'll lead me to a point I'll talk about later on in the video, which is trusting influencers. I know a lot of people kind of get the ideas from a few different influencers and essentially bring them together and say, hey, most people agree this is a good project, it must be a good project, therefore I'm going to buy it. So you must get rid of those ones and do a little bit of research, which is how the goal setting will most definitely help you. And from there, you will create some sort of a framework for a new portfolio. While you might not be buying new altcoins, you definitely know which new altcoins you might want to buy and what little research you might want to do as well, okay? Personally, I like layer 1 networks. I like networks that are looking to survive not only the 2025 bull run, but say I, for example, was hospitalized for the next 2 years and I woke up and it was a bear market. I'm buying projects that are essentially going to be prosperous in 2030 and beyond, even if most, 99% of cryptocurrencies were to die. So I'm looking for businesses at heart, not just cryptocurrencies. I'm looking for an actual business model where there's some real downside potential for large corporations if that project were to collapse, okay? And at that, if I continue to move on here, I think a good segue would be also optimizing your research as well. One thing I see a lot of people go wrong with their portfolios is that they tend to have way too many projects for what they can handle. For example, you might be someone who can't afford to buy 20 altcoins or 15 altcoins, but your day-to-day, you might be a very busy person, a doctor, for example, and you might only have, 15, 20 minutes in the morning to do your research, or half an hour and then half an hour at night again. Okay, I get that. But you must also factor that in, because I expect a minimum of 10 minutes of research from you guys per project every single day in the bull run. It is what is minimum expected of you, because this is literally like the baseline of how you're going to know whether the project's doing good or bad, okay? It's all a reactionary market. People move the market. There's no sort of fundamental or TA thing that you can look at, like code, that's going to dictate what happens with the project. So you must keep up with trends, positive or negative, that relate to your project. And the only way you can do that is by spending a minimum of 10 minutes research every single day. Now, the last point I'll bring up in regards to your portfolio is whether you should stake or not, or just hold the tokens. And I think staking is a great way for a lot of people to feel more relaxed about, inflation. Inflation can be quite scary. Some networks like Casper with the C, they do have quite high inflation, but you can offset that with, of course, staking, right? Or bonding on the network. I would just say, by all means, that's great. Stake, bond, whatever you want. Really important things to consider when you're doing this is, one, not doing it on a third-party website. Take Celsius, for example, take BlockFi. They all ended up crashing, and how predominant and how well known were they in the last bull run, okay? So everyone thought they were the be-all and end-all, okay? So make sure you do not trust them no matter how prestigious they might come across, and always stake on the network. Of course, none of this is financial advice, right? But that's what I personally would do. Stake on the network or bond your tokens to a node. Just make sure that if you do bond your tokens to a node, aka give your tokens to a node pool, which means that they get more block rewards, which means they give you a portion of their rewards, all right, every single time they mine a block. In that case, you don't want to be susceptible to what's called slashing. I'm not going to go into it in this video. You just look it up if you are bonding. But if you're staking, I suggest staking on a network, because if that network were to crash, the good thing about doing that is just simply everyone loses their tokens, right? So if you were staking on, let's just say BlockFi, a third-party staking platform, and the network crashed, right? Who cares? Because you can't use those tokens anyway. In the other scenario, if you were staking on a third-party platform and that third-party platform crashed, but the network was alive and well still, you've lost your tokens, but the network continues to run. So that's the trade-off, and that's my opinion. Just be careful, because you do have unlock periods as well, which can be sometimes up to a couple of months. So just keep that in mind and be liquid for the bull run. Take those out of staking. Just do it while we're in the bear market, okay? And in between important and do or die, the next most important thing is altcoin research. Now, the interesting thing about altcoin research, and something I found myself vulnerable to in the last bull run, was equivalating work and research with quality. I was putting hours and hours and hours into the wrong things, analyzing the protocol, business models, everything that you see me talk about, I know from basically my research I've done over the time, okay? But luckily for you, and luckily for those who are short on time, there is a much more simple way that you can laser focus into the correct things to look for, saving you like countless hours, time, hassle, honestly, just straight up stress, right? And that's the 5 things I like to discuss quite frequently on this channel. And that, of course, is the narrative, meme, popularity, supply, and the team. I've made videos on this, so I'm pretty sure I've given you guys this sheet access. And if you follow this order, these are, again, the by far most important things. If you just do this research, that's all you need to know. Why? Well, for those who are a bit more skeptical about what I'm saying here, it's because the 2025 bull run is going to be a speculation-based bull run. We aren't a traditional market. We're not the equity market. We're not a bond market. We're not anything related to stocks. Okay, we're not looking at businesses here that are true, tried, and tested. This is basically the tech bubble, right? The sort of web bubble that sort of came back in the early 2000s. Everyone's making websites and all these stocks were going up in price just from nothing but speculation. The same thing here, okay? We're still living in this world. And why it's very important to know this is because, again, you save so much damn time, all right? So I'm not going to spend too much time taking you through this. The narrative focuses just kind of like this river example over here. It's where the money will flow. The meme is what makes that project attractive to the mass market, the wow factor. Popularity is things like roadmap events, so news. and also possible announcements that we can, announcements come in the spur of the moment. We don't really have a programmed schedule for this, but what we can do is say, hey, this project's in this specific narrative, or should I say industry, and has been building with these partners for a while. We can expect some pretty bullish news to pop out. Supply as well, vesting, emissions, and distribution, and finally the team. Your team can give an additional boost, and the way I like to describe this is showing you guys the ADA versus BTC chart here, and just show you why Bitcoin and all altcoins don't peak at the same time. There's things like narratives that allow the project to peak at a specific time versus the market, right? Bitcoin's peak was over here. Obviously you had ADA's peak way back over here months earlier, and also had a peak over here, right? So narratives out of the blue, right? Also roadmap events and upgrades or announcements. Over here, the velocity depends on the memes, the wow factor. Whenever there's big news about something or a narrative plays off, all layer ones pump up. Why is ADA so much more attractive than its competitors, and therefore money will flow into it? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves, but I'm telling you right now, I expect every single one of you who are watching this video to bare minimum be doing this sort of stuff for the bear market. Again, this is very, very easy. And if you start your research now, again, going back into those sort of goal setting method I showed you before, you will most definitely understand all these concepts just as well as I do before the bull run. So that being said, I'm going to point out some obvious things here. Again, don't spend hundreds of hours of research into the really nitty gritty bottom of the barrel. Surface level things are fine. What happens below the surface is important, but you don't have to really concern yourself with it too much. Of course, little tiny things that happens under the surface, little things like a small percentage of this or a protocol change doing this can impact and bubble to the surface eventually over time, causing, yes, good or bad outcomes for the project. But again, it shouldn't matter too much if you don't have the time to do that research, okay? So the next thing as well, I'm going to point this out, it's kind of what I said earlier, is do not, please do not take a consensus of what YouTubers say and say, okay, this is a project I'm going to buy. If you can't write down the reasons why you bought that project in 3 sentences and not just, hey, Kyron from No BS Crypto told me to buy it, hey, such and such said to do this. No, we're actually talking about reasons as to really why you're buying that altcoin, okay? That's it. But with that, I do want to say there are circumstances where this is important. As I said, the next bull run is a speculation bull run, meaning that it's going to be built off speculation, right? Hey, we think that this project's going to go up, right? There's no inherent value there, possibly, at least for most projects. So again, kind of gauging the community, gauging the socials around a project can be powerful as well. Just don't base your entire research from what other people think, especially influencers. And the absolute do or die is exit strategies. Everyone that's spoken to me privately knows how much I really emphasize this, and everyone that's been, survived, essentially, I'm going to use the word here, survived the last bull run, knows how important it is to do an exit strategy, because the hype, the FOMO, that pure excitement of 10xing, it's like, hey, everyone's saying this project's going to go up even more, so I'm going to just hold it. And then you go, oh my God, 11x, 12x, I'm smart, I'm doing the right thing. And then 15x, and then boom, falls off a cliff. And, as you saw before with ADA in that example from the narrative, you know for a fact that it may never recover to its full potential price again. Okay, so I want to show you an example, but the way that we find exit strategies is by doing something a lot of people frown upon, which is price predictions. If you can predict the price from, again, I've done a lot of videos on this, right? From actually somewhat relevant information and then kind of go with a low ball figure, you can actually work out where your exit strategy should roughly be. Now, I make a very important point in all my videos, which is, as you can see on your screen here, is going to be redoing exit strategies consistently, right? So you have to do one, for example, now, all the way over here, and then April 1st, 2024, and then February 1st, 2025. 6 to 12 months is kind of like where I'm going to continue to redo my exit plan, just so I have levels constantly in mind. And then, of course, when the bull run kicks off, looking to redo this every couple of months. Now, luckily for you guys, I have a full sort of course on my website I'm coming out with price predictions and exit strategies for all your favorite altcoins. So you guys don't have to really worry about this too much if you go ahead and wait for that. But I want to say, for the most part, if you aren't going to do that, you must look at doing this yourself and at least learning. So with this example over here for Cardano, I'm going to give you examples on exactly how this is done, right? If you plan this out beforehand, you know exactly how much money you're extracting from the market. You'll take your initial investment out. Now, in this example with Cardano, right, on this video, I spoke about buying 10,000 Cardano for the current price of 50 cents, right? That'll get you about 20,000 Cardano tokens, KDA tokens, okay? And you can actually see here, you're left, okay? So again, you buy them all. If you sell at the minimum price prediction level, that's within reason, okay? you're left with 19,000 KDA tokens. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. You're literally only selling 1,000 of your 20,000 tokens. And as you can see, I run through examples here of what it would look like if you would set your sell orders. And you'll find that you don't have to increase the price very much to make a lot of money. Again, $10,000 in this case. I think it came out to be quite a lot of money. I can't quite figure out where it is. So yeah, minimum of 221K, minimum, okay? And you could still have some left over to hold for a potential top. But you can see increases of $3 over here for Cadena, and you're obviously setting your sell orders and you know exactly how much money you're getting out of the bull run. Exactly. Now, of course, when it comes to predicting price and of course finding that initial investment sell level and then the subsequent sell levels, that all does depend on, sentiment in the moment, crypto sentiment, and also news related to that project. But this is obviously why it's important for you to dedicate at least 10 minutes per day per project to revisit this information and make those tweaks on the fly. Guys, as I said, this might be the last time we actually make some serious money in the upcoming bull market. Hence why it is so important for you to do this now. Doesn't have to take long, and I suggest, again, revisiting back to the start of the video, using that sort of goal checklist and then, breaking them into sprints and then weeks and then also days. Now, the next 6 months will definitely change your life. And so, of course, if you're someone who is doing this, then I want to congratulate you personally because you are making an active choice to change your life forever. Guys, that'll do it for this video. Take good care. Talk to you soon. Bye.